We are the seed of God's love. And I believe that our journey here on this planet as human beings is to grow that seed of love. Grow the seed of love so we can become this beautiful bouquet of unique and individualized expressions, blossoms of the God essence. You know, love is an interesting thing. It's simple and complex at the same time. Remember the, first loves, puppy love. Do any of you remember those, puppy love? I remember puppy love in 6th grade. I remember when Greg and I rode our bicycles to 31 Flavors, and he asked me to go steady. And he gave me a little turquoise St. Christopher and kissed me on the cheek. Woo! How pure and simple. It doesn't stay that way, but that was a beautiful idea to remember. It gets a little more complex after that. So let's just start at the beginning. And what Griselda said, where are you, Griselda? That was so beautiful and perfect. And did you faint? Oh, no, okay. Okay. The teachings of Ernest Holmes are so beautiful. There is one life. That's God's life. And there is one heart. That's God's heart, and that's love. And when we can change our minds and grow into that understanding, our whole life will change. But it's a process to grow into that. Jesus said, "Blessed are the pure in heart, because they see God." Well, what's the pure in heart mean? It simply means we're an open vessel to receive the love and goodness and joy and peace and harmony that's already been given. We just have to be that clear and open vessel and fountain so we can share that in our lives and we can truly see the God, the good in life, instead of wallowing in the murky stuff of life. Does that sound good? That we could be doing that? I agree. The ancient Jews really understood this thing about the heart. The heart is the container for divine love. It moves beyond the intellect and reason of the mind to a place of feeling and knowing wisdom. In the Old Testament, now it varies in different versions of the Bible, but in the Old Testament, heart is mentioned 725 times. In the New Testament, it varies, but about 105 times. But in the Psalms, it says so many wonderful phrases about the heart, but speak the truth from your heart. Because that's the purity of truth. When we can cleanse that fountain, that opening, when we can cleanse it, the truth is right there. It goes on to say in another place, "In the night my heart instructs me and gives me counsel." How many of you wake up at about the same time every night and you think it's just because you have to go to the bathroom? It's really God speaking to us. And if we took the time, because the purity of night, the stillness and the darkness, there's a message there. And if you and I would listen, the wisdom of spirit, of divinity, of the absolute would be there for us. I just suggest, if that happens to you, to put a piece of paper by your bedside, because oftentimes we get a flash of insight and we forget. But remember, Spirit speaks to us in the silence and in beautiful ways. So those are just little words of wisdom in Proverbs. It goes on to say, "As a man thinketh in his heart, beyond the reason, the intuitive knowing, so he is." So he is. Wow, so much wisdom. The mystics of all cultures, faiths, religions, the ages, all the ages got this because they spent much of their time finding the divine in the sanctuary of their heart. And what happens when you do that? You expand the boundaries of life. You see a bigger picture of life. You have greater understanding. You move beyond the senses and the feelings of right and wrong. You move beyond that. So you have a greater view and insight of life. And of course, there's a much closer and more intimate relationship with Spirit, with love, with God, with beauty, with truth. So how do you and I find that that channel that we can open up, that opening, that fountain, that we can feel the divine in our heart. Well, the mystics, as I said, my dear boyfriend Rumi said he looked in churches and mosques and temples, and the only place he could really find the divine was within his own heart. So you and I have to really listen carefully to our heart speak. And that speaking is not a sound, it's a feeling. It's like a spark. If you think of a seed, a little tiny seed that grew that beautiful, oh, look at that beautiful field of flowers. The seed has all the potential in it. Everything it needs. Of course, it needs a little water and a little sun, but it has what it needs to become everything it was designed to be. And the same with us. And that love, that love is that creative essence, that feeling behind everything. It's that impulse. It's that little fire within us. The fire, that spark of inspiration. You can feel that. I get the God bumps when I just really am in the awe of beauty. You know, when you see just God's beauty at work, how you just break open, or looking in the eyes of a newborn baby, or feeling that connection with someone you love and care about. That's the awe, the feeling of love that we're looking for. One of my greatest teachers in the practice of love was my daughter, Tara. She could be a little spitfire, and she knew how to push my buttons really well. But we were very much alike. And just as a young girl, she would know she pushed my buttons a little too far. But she'd stand in front of me and she'd say, "Mom, I am not moving until you say, I love you." And she wouldn't. I had to do some breathing. But boy, could you feel the power of love. How you can move beyond the anger, the upset, the hurt, the pain, whatever it is, when you really can say, I love you, and mean it. And thank God, I feel so blessed. Those were the last words that I said to her when I saw her in this physical existence, because it became a practice. It became something we did all the time. Even for a short walk away, we practiced, I love you, from that heart place. It's something you and I need to work on in our lives, to practice that feeling of love. You know, Ernest Holmes wrote this little book in 1919, one of his first books, Creative Mind and Success. And he went back in 1957 to read it again and write a new foreword to it, because he thought, wow, it's been 38 years, maybe I've changed. And he said there was really nothing he had to change, because truth is ageless, timeless, limitless. And he has such truth in here about love. He says, you know, and here's what makes it kind of tough, okay? He said, God's impulse is love. And it's given freely and never refused to all who ask. It's there for us. He goes on to say, the first thing everyone needs to do is learn to love everybody. Begin at once. Love is the greatest healing power in the whole world, in the whole universe. It heals. We need to practice it. He said there is more good than bad in people. There's more good than bad. And if you and I tend to see that in others, if we look for the good and can step over the bad or the problem or the difficulty, if we look for the good, it tends to bring it out of other people. Have you been in kind of a crummy mood and somebody said really something kind to you and wonderful to you? Simple. How different it makes you feel that you matter. You understand. And that's what he calls us to do. This is hard work. It's hard work. Oftentimes, our humanness Now, I don't know if you're going to like this. It might resonate, but our humanness likes the darkness more than the light. We like to stay in judgment and control. Don't we love control? We can control our lives more than being in the flow of that grace and goodness of Spirit. It takes practice, practice, practice. You know, when we think about this journey, the seed that's growing, for me it's a journey of consciousness. Moving from a lower consciousness is like being on the lower rung of a ladder. And we're closer to the ground, and we can see a lot of the ugly details of things, and we're a smaller version of ourselves. We're not in our full expression. And we don't have a greater understanding because we only see a piece of life. But if we really make the commitment that we're going to grow our consciousness into something greater, we have to start climbing the ladder. And, you know, if we climb the ladder, it means we have to stretch. And when we stretch, it shows us our tight parts. When we're not so willing to step into the unknown of something we don't know yet, to step in, to let go of all those things that limit us. And in this process of climbing the ladder, in order to get ourselves into condition, we need to change our energy. We need to purge our body of anything that is not in alignment with peace and harmony and joy. And that takes work because we're human. And we've been trained to judge. We've been trained to do so many things. We've been trained to see what's wrong instead of what's right so often. I want you to think right now, if you were climbing this ladder to your highest potential, or even just a ladder to something that you want in your life right now. It can be something physical, it can be something spiritual, it doesn't matter because we all have wants and needs in our life. If you put there, knowing that with God all things are right, that if we are climbing this ladder of consciousness, what we want, because if it comes from inside, what we want is possible. So let's say, I want a new relationship, I want a new car, I want a new house, I want more love in my life, I want to be calmer, I want more peace. You know, all those things, anything you want. And then how often do we go, but I really don't deserve it. You know, that's not going to happen. Why do I even ask for that? Do you ever do that? Do you ever deny what you want? How about saying, okay, I don't know how I'm going to get it, but you know what? It's on its way because I want it. And I'm making myself the vehicle to do whatever I need to do to create the space. It's on its way. Think about that. Just say it. It's on its way. Whatever that is. Because life is always for us. God's Spirit, the universe, has our back. We're the one that turns our back on it, on that creative potential and understanding and goodness. It's there for us right now. We just need to be able to use it and understand it. And know that we deserve it in this and every moment. We are made from love. That little seed is love itself. It's that creative potential. That ladder, when we raise our consciousness, as we climb the ladder, we become better versions of ourselves. We become happier in who we are. We become more joyful. Creative ideas and inspiration come to us as we learn to follow on that path. My dear friend Rumi says, he said, set your life on fire. Fire, possibility. Set that passion inside you alive, and then seek others around you who fan your flames, who keep you going, who pump you up. Because when God speaks to us, if God were a person, it's not in the language of words, it's in the language of feeling. We feel it, we feel inspired. It always has to be affirmative. If we're hearing the voice of Spirit or feeling the voice of Spirit, it's affirmative, it's positive, it's for us, it's never against us. So that can be your judge. Am I living in my human realm or my spiritual realm? You can feel the place you are. You can feel it in your heart. And the perfect combination, and it was Jesus who said we need to have our heart and mind aligned. They need to be in balance because God lives in the heart and in the mind. We have to let go of the dualism of the battling mind and heart, knowing what is true and right and good and choosing something else anyway. We have to get that in balance. Henri Nouwen, I believe his name is. He's a Dutch Catholic priest, a theologian. He was very much into spirituality, more than duality, spirituality, and he loved social justice. He wrote a book called Way of the Heart. Way of the Heart. And in that, he has a spiritual path with only 3 stepping stones of how to move ourselves closer to that divine love. And I want to share those now and see. I want you to test yourself and see how well you're doing, because this is the practice we need to nurture our seed. The external seed, the physical seed, needs water and sun. Here's what we need. Solitude. Learning not to be alone, but to be alone with God. Just time when you spend in communion with the divine. Solitude. Solitude. Silence. The discipline by which the inner fire of God is tended and kept alive. What do I need to let go of right now to be more impassioned, inspired by the good that's here and the good around me? What do I need? And the last one, and this fits very beautifully for our prayer wall Sunday, and I love the way that he wrote this. Prayer. Standing in the presence of God with the mind in the heart. So you're thinking from your heart mind. Solitude, silence, and prayer. Things for us to work on. Because truly the way we reach the divine and reach others is through our own heart of love. That's the way we bring unity to this world. So when we're preparing for our prayer wall today, I just want to imagine we've climbed that ladder, and is there some place that keeps you from moving higher, more letting the flow of goodness in? Think, what do I need to let go of? We all have stuff, that's why we're still here, because we all have stuff that needs to be worked on, we need to grow through. What do I need to let go of, or what do I need to embrace? More self-love, more peace in my life, because there's peace in us right now, because that seed within us holds love and peace that is us right now. So the question for you is, what do I need to let go of? What do I need to embrace in order to be a more loving presence, to have a more peaceful life? Does that sound good? Good. I'd like to invite our practitioners and our ministers up here to form a wall of prayer. They come up here, aligning with Spirit, holding the higher truth, seeing the good, touching the goodness in others. And just, if you come to the middle here, so move in a little bit here so we can have our line. Beautiful, beautiful. And I'm just going to ask you now to come forward. Have the courage and confidence to take that next step of the ladder of consciousness. Use the consciousness of our beautiful beings here to come to our prayer wall and just say, I'm ready to release, I'm ready to embrace what you want to hold to expand the love in your life. And I invite you up now. And as we bring these beautiful prayers to a conclusion, we feel that flame of love ignited in our hearts, the healing essence, the impulse of love, the inspiration and passion for God's joy and love and peace and harmony to not only exist in our lives, but to build a bridge of love, unification, and possibility. Our unification with God and with one another. We know that this is established here and now because we've opened ourselves to something more. We see it done, and we release all of this and all of these beautiful prayers spoken today to the infinite mind of God, to the law of good. We see them done right here and right now. As we give great thanks for this, we release them, we let it go. And it is in absolute faith and love we say, thank you, God. And so it is.